Welcome to BL Stories, where romance, drama, and unforgettable boys' love come to life. Love knows no limits, and the best stories aren't always straight. Subscribe now and join our growing BL-loving family. Chapter 9. After parking in the driveway of Clarissa Bollinger's house, Julian turned to Aiden with a firm expression. Even though this place looks abandoned, Clarissa could still be nearby. Stay in the car until I check the house. Do not get out for any reason. Understood? Julian's strict tone left no room for argument. Mentally drained as he was, Aiden didn't even try. Be careful in there. I always am, Julian replied with a confident smirk before stepping out. Aiden watched from the passenger seat as Julian drew his gun and cautiously approached the house. From the outside, it truly looked deserted, overgrown grass, dark green moss climbing the walls, and a front window boarded up with old wood. Anyone else would have assumed it empty. But Aiden and Julian knew better. Whether Clarissa was home or not, they would soon find out. Holy! Aiden muttered under his breath when Julian kicked open the front door and disappeared inside. Minutes stretched into nearly 15, and still there was no sign of him. Frustrated, Aiden climbed out of the car and approached the house, his nerves taut but his pride refusing to let him stay idle. He should have waited. He knew that. But he couldn't just sit there. Inside, the smell hit him immediately, a pungent, musty odor that made him gag. He covered his nose and navigated carefully through the clutter. The house was a hoarder's nightmare, cramped and overwhelming. Eventually, he reached the hallway, slightly less cluttered. All the bedroom doors were open, suggesting Julian had checked them already. The master bedroom, however, held him frozen in shock. Aiden's eyes widened at the walls. Julian, what is all this? He asked, his voice trembling. The room was covered with pictures and writings of Aiden, an entire wall dedicated to him. It was clear that Clarissa had spent months, maybe years, tracking him meticulously. Dates, places, even what he had been wearing were documented in painstaking detail. Julian's voice snapped him out of the stupor. I told you to stay in the car, Grayson, he said sharply, turning to glare at Aiden. This partnership goes both ways. I follow your directions and you follow mine. It's for your safety. Aiden tried to lighten the tension with a small smirk. You might need to calm down before you pop a vein. And for the record, I waited a long time. When you didn't come back, curiosity got the better of me. Now I understand. Julian's gaze swept the room, his expression serious. She's been tracking you for a while. This is beyond obsession. This is dangerous. No kidding, Aiden murmured, rubbing his temples. Document everything, then let's get out of here. I need fresh air. Outside, Aiden took a deep breath, grateful for the clean air. He needed a moment to steady himself before his mind completely unraveled. Julian had taken photos and video to document the room. Once finished, he climbed back into the car. This is a day I won't forget, Julian muttered. He started the engine and drove away from the rundown house. Aiden let out a long exhale. I think I'm going to need a drink to calm my nerves. Julian nodded. We should also contact the authorities so they can search for Clarissa. That alone might scare her out of hiding. Aiden shook his head, still lost in thought. No, we handle this quietly. The press would make it worse if they knew. I need to take control without drawing attention. Grayson can't be compromised by this. Julian understood, though he didn't agree. Then what's the plan? I need better security, Aiden replied. Do you know any private investigators? Julian shook his head. Not personally, but I can look into it once we get back. Thanks, Aiden said, reclining in his seat. I don't even want to imagine what would have happened if she'd been home. In that case, I would have acted first and asked questions later, Julian murmured. She's clearly dangerous. Well, she better be ready, Aiden said firmly, because I'm not backing down. Later. Hey, wake up. You're home, Julian called, gently shaking Aiden. I'm doing a quick sweep outside, you can go inside. I'll be upstairs in the bar if you need me, Aiden replied, sluggishly heading inside. He changed out of his clothes, taking a quick wash to feel refreshed, and slipped into comfortable pajamas, ready to let the day's tension finally ease. Aiden tried not to let it get to him, but he couldn't shake the disappointment of leaving Clarissa empty-handed. For the first time that day, he walked to his home bar and poured himself a drink. It felt strangely indulgent, almost wrong, yet he couldn't bring himself to put the glass down. "I've really missed you," he whispered to the amber liquid, raising the shot glass to his lips. By the time Julian had settled in after changing clothes, Aiden was already on his 7th shot. Julian's gray basketball shorts and fitted black tank top were simple, but somehow, Aiden found himself distracted, staring more than he intended. "Save some for me," Julian said, grabbing a shot glass from the bar before perching on a stool beside him. "I don't drink much, but after what we saw at Clarissa's, a couple of shots won't hurt." Aiden glanced at his bodyguard and couldn't help but blush. Julian's presence was impossible to ignore, his calm confidence and quiet strength suddenly feeling more magnetic than ever. "So, what you're telling me is this is your first encounter with a real psychopath?" Aiden teased lightly. Julian smiled innocently. "Yep. First time." There was a warmth in Julian's eyes, a spark that made Aiden's pulse quicken. His crooked little grin said so much while saying nothing at all. A sharp thrill ran down Aiden's spine. "I find that hard to believe," Aiden admitted with a small laugh. Julian shrugged, taking another sip. "I've dealt with a few difficult people here and there, but nothing like Clarissa. The only thing remotely similar I've seen was on a TV show." "Let's hope it doesn't end like a TV drama, then," Aiden said with a nervous chuckle. He took 3 more shots, losing count of how many he'd had. "I guess it's a good thing I have you here to protect me, huh?" Aiden added with a playful wink. Julian stiffened, locking eyes with Aiden. "Why, that's my job, to keep you safe." The wink threw him off, part of him uneasy, part of him curious. Julian reminded himself that this wasn't sober Aiden, and tried not to let it distract him too much. "You know what? I'm kind of tired. It's been a long day. I should head to bed," Julian said, attempting to stand, but Aiden grabbed his hand. "Sit. Have another drink with me," Aiden said softly, his grin lazy but sincere. "I don't want to be alone right now. I usually don't ask, but I want you here. Just you." He met Julian's gaze, curiosity and something warmer flickering in his eyes. "Please." Julian hesitated, the rational voice in his head warning him to leave. Yet, the quiet need in Aiden's eyes won out. "All right, fine. Just one more drink," he relented, taking his seat. Aiden passed him a shot glass, and they downed it together. "So, tell me about Lance. You two serious or just casual?" "We were serious," Julian replied, hesitant. "We dated for a year before splitting up. My job made it hard to devote time to the relationship. It wasn't anyone's fault, it just wasn't working. We ended things because it was the right choice." "Still friends though? Isn't that awkward?" Aiden asked, giggling slightly. "You're really confusing me, Jules." "Julian. That's a pretty name, yes? Pretty name for a pretty person." He nudged Julian playfully, making them both laugh. "Okay, I think you've had enough for now," Julian said, gently taking the bottle from him and securing it. "Come on, let's get you to your room." Aiden leaned on him as Julian helped steady him. "I just want to know more about you, Jules. Tell me about your family. Are they supportive? How do they feel about you being happy?" Julian laughed softly. "Well, my father and sister love me unconditionally. My mother, she says she cares, but I know what she really thinks. She once told me I'm going to be punished for who I am, but I've learned to accept myself anyway." Aiden smiled, the warmth of the room and Julian's presence making him feel safe and cared for. Despite the day's chaos, there was a sense of connection, quiet and unspoken, that lingered between them as they walked down the hallway together. "That was really harsh," Aiden muttered, frustrated that someone had treated Julian coldly. "I'm sorry. Was that too much? Should I have said something else?" "It's okay," Julian replied with a small chuckle, unbothered. "She can be difficult sometimes. Ever since I moved out of my parents' house, I've learned not to let anyone disrespect me like that. If only she knew how hard things were growing up." "Julian," Stop talking, Aiden interrupted gently, guiding Julian into his bedroom. Using the little strength he had left, he pressed Julian lightly against the door, shutting it behind them. I need to say something. It was now or never. Aiden finally gathered the courage to speak the question that had been on his mind all day. Why am I not your type? Aiden asked softly, looking directly into Julian's warm brown eyes. Do you not find me attractive at all? He moved closer until there was no space between them, their proximity both comforting and confusing. Say something, Aiden whispered, his voice low and earnest. Grayson, you really need to calm down. We can't do this, Julian said, his voice trembling slightly. You've had too much to drink, and I don't want you to say or do something you'll regret. Just, let's stop here. Why won't you answer me? Aiden pressed gently, ignoring Julian's words. He simply wanted to know, to feel a connection, to understand. Julian looked at him, caught between wanting to reassure Aiden and needing to maintain boundaries. Grayson, please, let's just take a step back. That's all I'm asking. Aiden's face softened, and he let out a small laugh, trying to ease the tension. I just want you to know that you've been on my mind all day. I care about you. Julian exhaled, grounding himself. He gently took Aiden's hands in his own, holding them firmly yet kindly. I know, Grayson, and I care about you too. But we need to wait until this is the right time. Until then, we respect each other's boundaries. Aiden nodded, finally letting the intensity fade, though the warmth between them lingered. He smiled, a mix of relief and longing as he settled onto his bed. Julian sank to the floor by the door, taking a deep breath. He shook his head, chastising himself for how close he had let things get. I can't rush this. I won't, he murmured quietly, determined to keep his professional and personal life in balance. For the next several hours, both of them tried to calm their thoughts. The tension was still there, but now it was tempered by patience, care, and the unspoken understanding that some things had to wait. Chapter 10. Aiden woke with a start, his body feeling uncomfortably warm, as if he were wrapped in layers of blankets he hadn't noticed. The whiskey from the night before still weighed heavily on him, and as his mind cleared, a wave of panic hit him. It had only been a few hours since he'd embarrassed himself in front of Julian, and unfortunately, he remembered most of it. The memories came rushing back like a film, showing him laughing, talking, and connecting with Julian in ways that, because of their professional relationship, felt forbidden. Oh no, what have I done? Aiden whispered to himself, fully conscious now and aware of the awkward position he was in. Somehow, he had fallen asleep spooning Julian, holding him close as if afraid he would disappear. Their bodies had been pressed together so tightly that it was hard for Aiden to think clearly. Holy! Aiden murmured, his pulse racing as he carefully untangled himself. Amid the panic, he couldn't deny something. He had enjoyed the moments he'd shared with Julian, even if they were confusing and unexpected. Julian McAndrew was the first person, man or woman, Aiden had ever pursued with genuine interest. Past experiences with women had never stirred him the way his connection with Julian did. Just one look, one smile, one shared moment had left him breathless. The realization was both thrilling and terrifying. Aiden retreated to the bathroom, needing space to gather his thoughts. He turned on the cold water, letting it cascade over him as he tried to calm the racing thoughts in his head. I kissed him. I actually kissed him, Aiden murmured, pressing his hands to his face. His heart pounded, and a strange mix of excitement and fear left him shaking. How could he face Julian again after all of that? Minutes passed, and Aiden slowly calmed enough to step out of the shower. Wrapping a fluffy towel around his waist, he took a deep breath and opened the bathroom door, only to see Julian fully awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, his expression sharp but concerned. Shower done? Julian asked, his tone measured. I hadn't planned to fall asleep here. I stayed because I was worried about you last night. You'd had a lot to drink, and I didn't want you to hurt yourself while I wasn't around. Aiden froze, his face heating up. I'm not. I mean, I like women. I'm not. He trailed off, flustered and embarrassed. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking straight last night. Julian stood, walking calmly toward the door, his posture firm but not unkind. I know what you're feeling, Grayson. And you don't need to apologize for your feelings. It's okay. I really am sorry, Aiden said, his voice quieter now. I shouldn't have. I drank too much and it got out of hand. I didn't mean to make things awkward between us. Julian softened slightly and shook his head. We both know last night was complicated. But we'll get through this. Let's just take it slow, okay? Aiden nodded, relief flooding through him. The tension in the room didn't vanish completely, but it shifted into something manageable, a shared understanding, an unspoken promise that their connection mattered, even if it had to be handled carefully. As he and Julian stared at each other, time seemed to pause just for them. Aiden couldn't bring himself to speak the words out loud, even though he knew he had made the first move. He had initiated the kiss, not Julian. So why was it so hard to admit, even to himself, that he wanted to be closer to his bodyguard? That he wanted to just be near him? It won't happen again, Aiden said quietly, his voice almost trembling. I mean it. Have a good rest of your night, Grayson, Julian replied softly, his hand resting on the doorknob as he prepared to leave. Aiden felt a surge of frustration he couldn't hide. Before he realized it, he was moving toward Julian. Hey, what's your problem? Was my apology not enough? Julian's patience snapped. He turned to face Aiden, his expression tight with tension. My problem? Look, I get it. You kissed someone for the first time, and now you're probably trying to process everything. That's fine. What I'm upset about are the actions that followed. After I returned the kiss, and after I accidentally fell asleep next to you, I wake up to see you scrambling to the bathroom like it was the end of the world. You panicked, and I understand that. But the way you acted made it seem like you were ashamed or afraid. Aiden's cheeks heated as he tried to explain. It wasn't like that. I didn't mean to upset you. I was just nervous. I didn't know how to handle waking up and finding myself so close to you. I panicked, okay? I needed space to think. That's all. I wasn't taking a shower or anything. I was just trying to figure out what happened. Julian's expression softened as he heard the sincerity in Aiden's voice. His tension slowly eased. I'm willing to forget about everything that happened if you are, Julian said after a moment. If that's what you really want. Aiden's heart skipped a beat. Did he want that? Forget everything. The laughter, the teasing, the closeness? The warmth of Julian's presence? The thought made him hesitate. I don't even know what I want to say, Aiden admitted, his hands trembling slightly. This is new to me. I've never been this close to someone before. I don't know how to handle it yet. Julian nodded, understanding. I get it. You're not ready. That's okay. His smile was gentle, even if a little forced, as he let Aiden's words sink in. Both men had acted recklessly that night, and now they had to live with the consequences. Julian had returned the kiss when he shouldn't have, and Aiden had let himself get swept up in a moment that confused him. I'll go check on finding a private investigator, Julian said, regaining his composure. I'll be downstairs if you need me. Thanks, Aiden mumbled, too quiet for Julian to hear as the bodyguard left. Once the door closed, Aiden slid down to the floor, mirroring the position Julian had taken earlier. He buried his face in his hands, chastising himself for crossing a line he shouldn't have. But deep down, he also knew one thing for certain. His feelings for Julian weren't going away anytime soon. Chapter 11. It was strange how a few simple kisses had shifted Julian's entire perspective on his boss. Brooding, moody, yet undeniably captivating. So much had changed since Julian first arrived at Aiden's house. Some changes good, some less so. And as much as Julian would rather not admit it, he was undeniably drawn to his unattainable boss, who seemed to be grappling with feelings he didn't fully understand. Aiden, in turn, couldn't ignore the magnetic pull he felt toward Julian. Days had passed since their first kiss, and Julian had been giving Aiden space, trying to let him figure things out on his own. It wasn't easy, though. Sometimes, when Aiden's emotions overwhelmed him, he reached for the bottle rather than facing his confusion. Julian knew it didn't solve anything, but he understood why Aiden sought escape. Terrence Price, the private investigator I've been talking to, will be here in about 15 minutes to meet you, Julian reminded, his voice steady as he watched Aiden tilt his head back for another drink. A small part of Julian felt responsible for Aiden's struggles. Since their kiss, Aiden had become more reckless, more withdrawn, and at times, more irritable. And yet, when he was drunk enough to lose control, he wasn't flirtatious or playful. He was distant, giving Julian the cold shoulder. "I'll be downstairs if you need me," Julian said quietly, before leaving Aiden to his thoughts. Alone at the bar, Aiden poured another drink. He was trying desperately to push away the confusing feelings he'd felt since that night. The memory of their kiss replayed over and over in his mind, refusing to fade. How could I have been so careless? I kissed Julian, and I liked it. Too much, Aiden muttered under his breath, shaking his head. He sipped again, feeling the frustration of being caught in a storm of uncertainty. He had always thought he understood himself, understood what he wanted. But now, after just one kiss, everything felt complicated. He couldn't deny that he was drawn to Julian in a way he had never experienced before. Questions filled his mind. Why did it feel so good to kiss him? Why did he want more? Why was he so drawn to Julian when he had only ever been attracted to women, or so he thought? Were these feelings always there, just waiting for the right person to awaken them? Aiden took another sip, unwilling to label himself. The uncertainty was frightening, but at least numbing himself for a while provided some temporary relief. Then his phone buzzed. A text from Julian. "Julian, can you come downstairs, please? Price is here." "Time for business," Aiden muttered, sliding the phone back into his pocket. He headed downstairs to meet Terrence Price, the private investigator tasked with tracking down his stalker and blackmailer, Clarissa Bollinger. Despite his inner turmoil, Aiden maintained a professional demeanor. "Mr. Price, it's nice to finally meet you in person," he said, offering a handshake and a polite smile. "Shall we go to the parlor to discuss?" "Yes, after you," Julian followed quietly, keeping his distance. At the last moment, he opted to sit on the same couch as Terrence, giving Aiden the space he seemed to need. "Mr. Price has over 15 years of experience," Julian explained. "If he can't find Clarissa, no one can." "Thanks, Mr. McAndrew." "You're too kind," Terrence replied, patting Julian's knee in a friendly gesture. Aiden watched, a twinge of jealousy stirring in him. How often had they spoken on the phone without him knowing? He quickly scolded himself. He had no right to feel that way. Terrence continued with the details, explaining the security setup outside and advising extra caution. "Even though you have cameras, you can never be too careful," he said. Aiden, frustrated with the meeting, stood. "I have other business to attend to. Please keep me updated, Mr. Price. Call me immediately if you get a lead." Returning upstairs, Aiden picked up where he left off at the bar. Before he could pour another drink, his phone rang. "What is it?" he snapped. Kyle's voice came through, calm and measured. "The World Star event is tonight. Everyone who's anyone will be there. I booked you a spot months ago, and they just called to remind me. Thought I should let you know. You do know there's still a dangerous person after me, right?" Aiden asked, incredulous. "Yes, Julian has been keeping me updated," Kyle replied. "It's good you've hired a private investigator. With the news dying down, it might be good for you to go out and get back into the scene, show your face." Aiden groaned. "So, I'm supposed to pretend everything's fine, smile, and keep up appearances while being hunted? Great. Just great." "Stop," Kyle said firmly. Aiden hung up and poured himself another drink. He was angry, not just at Kyle, but at the fact that Julian had been keeping him informed of everything. He felt frustrated, overwhelmed, and most of all, alone. The night hadn't even begun, yet Aiden was already exhausted by it. Chapter 12. Later that night, despite having increased his security detail, Aiden didn't want to draw unnecessary attention by bringing more guards than necessary. For tonight, he had chosen to bring only Julian along. During the long, quiet drive to the World Star event, Julian couldn't help but wonder if Aiden thrived on emotional challenges. His boss carried an intensity that was hard to read, sometimes charming, sometimes frustrating. They were clearly going through a rough patch. Aiden had made it clear he wanted space, so Julian couldn't understand why he had insisted Julian accompany him to the event. A more distant guard could have handled it, but instead, Julian found himself sitting beside the man he wanted most but couldn't have. "I spoke to Kyle earlier," Aiden said quietly, eyes fixed on the floor of the limousine. "He told me you've been keeping him and Thomas updated on the Clarissa situation. You even mentioned the extra guards and the private investigator. When were you planning to tell me you'd been reporting everything to them?" Julian sighed, not wanting to escalate things. "Thomas is the one who hired me, Aiden. He pays me, so technically he's my boss. When it's time to report, that's who gets the updates." He's your brother." "I thought." "You thought wrong." Aiden snapped, more frustrated with his brother than Julian. "I understand you have to tell Thomas, but Kyle doesn't need to know everything. From now on, I don't want him involved. If he wants details, he can ask Thomas himself. Got it?" Julian held back a long-suffering eye roll. "Understood. Anything else you'd like me to keep quiet about? You have my full attention." Julian knew Aiden was lashing out because of the kiss they had shared a week ago. He understood, but his patience was thin. He wasn't going to be anyone's punching bag. "There's no need to be sarcastic," Aiden muttered, unamused by Julian's tone. "I'm not trying to be," Julian replied. "I understand you're confused and frustrated. I've been trying to give you space, but I'd appreciate it if you didn't take it out on me. After all, you were the one who kissed me. I didn't start this." "Don't say another word," Aiden whispered, fists clenching as the memories of that night washed over him. "I know what I did. I replay it in my head constantly. It's done. I don't want to discuss it right now." Before Julian could respond, the limo pulled up. Aiden bolted from the car, and Julian quickly followed, slightly caught off guard by Aiden's admission that he still thought about their kiss. On the red carpet, cameras flashed as they walked. Aiden maintained his composure, offering a polite smile and wave to the crowd. "Mr. Grayson, over here. You look amazing tonight, Mr. Grayson. Who are you wearing? Are you single, Mr. Grayson?" Inside, Aiden wondered what it would be like if Julian were officially his date. What would people think if they walked in hand? That couldn't happen. He pushed the thought aside and made a beeline for the bar. Julian followed, prepared to speak up about Aiden's drinking, but decided to stay silent. He didn't want to start an argument in public. He also wished Aiden hadn't insisted he come along. Julian would rather have been at home, casually flirting with the new security hire, Clayton Benton. He wasn't serious, but Clayton provided a harmless distraction while Julian tried to sort out his feelings for Aiden. "If you're going to watch me, do it from the other side of the bar," Aiden said, sliding onto a stool. Julian sighed and moved to the opposite end. "Pour me something strong," Aiden said to the bartender, smiling. "Something that'll really wake me up." The bartender, Lacey, grinned. "And here I thought you already had enough courage. If you want, I can show you just how confident I am," Aiden teased, giving her a playful glance. "I'm Lacey," she replied, pouring the drink. "And I don't fall for just anyone. You'll have to try harder." Challenge accepted, Aiden winked, his attention quickly drawn to Julian, who was already engaging in lively conversation with another guest. Aiden took a small sip of his drink, secretly observing, trying to process the mix of jealousy and curiosity he felt. Several minutes later, "The two of them are just so cute," Lacey whispered. "I bet the one you came with will be the first to make a move. Look, they're already laughing together. You can tell they're close." Aiden's head snapped toward Julian, who was chatting and laughing with another guest, his hand resting lightly on the man's knee in a friendly gesture. The sight stirred something in Aiden he didn't want to admit. "Pour me another one." "Something stronger," Aiden muttered, unable to leave the bar despite feeling frustrated and exhausted. He'd already walked the red carpet, smiled for the cameras, and made himself visible for the media. That had to be enough. Lacey refilled his glass. "You got it, Aiden?" "Just call me Aiden," he replied, rubbing his face in irritation. He watched Julian laugh with ease, and a pang of jealousy gnawed at him. Why did it bother him so much to see Julian happy with someone else? Was he imagining things, or was this real? Relax a bit, Lacey said, her voice gentler now. No need to get all worked up. What's going on? Nothing. I'm fine, Aiden lied, chugging his drink. Pour me another. Are you sure? You don't look steady, Lacey started cautiously. Just pour it please, Aiden said, louder than he intended. He immediately realized the attention he drew, but he didn't care. Julian, noticing the tension, excused himself from his conversation and approached Aiden. He leaned close and whispered, "You're causing a scene. Let's step outside for some fresh air before this gets worse." "No. Don't touch me," Aiden snapped, stepping back. "Go back to your conversation. Please, don't let me get in your way." Julian paused, realization dawning. "Are you jealous?" Aiden's face turned red. He stumbled away, heading toward a door, but it wasn't the exit. Julian followed quickly and gently guided him into an empty restroom. "I said don't touch me," Aiden protested, trying to pull away. "Calm down," Julian said firmly but softly. "Have you forgotten where we are? You've been here less than an hour. You can't let this get out of control." "Tell me what I already know," Aiden muttered, sinking to the floor and cradling his head. "Why do I feel like this? What have you done to me?" Julian knelt beside him, concern etched on his face. "Aiden, I can help you work through this. But you have to stop shutting me out. You have to let me in. Trust me." "But I'm not like you," Aiden whispered, his chest tight, words stumbling. "But I've always liked women. But after our kiss, I felt," he struggled to finish, his voice trembling. "I don't even know how to explain it." "I understand, Grayson," Julian said gently, brushing Aiden's hair from his forehead. "Feeling confused doesn't mean anything is wrong. There's nothing wrong with how you feel. You just need to calm down and think about it clearly when you're not overwhelmed or under the influence." Julian helped Aiden to his feet, steadying him. "Let's get some fresh air. Call it a night. You'll feel a lot better." "But I don't feel so well," Aiden admitted, leaning on Julian. "I'm sorry for everything." Aiden's knees gave out, and Julian caught him just in time. He guided him to a safer spot and held him firmly as Aiden's body shook, overwhelmed by his emotions. Julian watched with growing concern, ready to call for help if necessary. Aiden, however, felt himself drift into a different space, a place where he could simply breathe, a place where he could start to be himself. For the first time in a long while, he felt a glimmer of freedom. Chapter 13. If emotions could be measured, Aiden was drowning in the heaviest kind. His body ached, his stomach twisted, and his head throbbed like it was about to split apart. He felt utterly exhausted and completely responsible for landing himself in this state. He knew he had messed up, big time. But this time, his recklessness had almost cost him his life. Aiden had let his emotions take control that night. Vulnerable and confused, he had finally admitted to himself that the feelings he secretly harbored for his bodyguard weren't fleeting, they were real, permanent, and that terrified him. The fear of the unknown had pushed him down a dangerous path. Ironically, the person who had driven him into that darkness was also the one who had pulled him back and saved his life. When Aiden finally opened his eyes, the bright lights of a hospital room stung. Machines beeped softly around him, and before he could tug at the cords resting across his body, a familiar hand gently stopped him. What happened?" he mumbled, groggy. "Am I okay?" "Alcohol poisoning," Julian said, stepping into view. He looked as composed and handsome as ever. "All that drinking finally caught up to you. Lucky for you, the press thinks you had an allergic reaction to the sushi at the event. Kyle came up with that story, by the way." Aiden groaned. "Really? Well, this wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gone to that stupid event. I feel like I've been hit by a bus." "You'll need to take it easy for a few days," Julian said. "And honestly, we both know who's really responsible here." "Excuse me? If you want to heal, mentally and emotionally, you need to stop blaming everyone else and take responsibility," Julian explained gently. "Face your problems instead of running from them. Stop lashing out, stop avoiding your feelings, and just be honest with yourself." Aiden stared at him, trying to process the words. He felt torn between following his heart and thinking rationally. Julian understood the conflict all too well, but he didn't want to act recklessly. Even now, seeing Aiden's green eyes, still captivating despite being a little bloodshot, Julian wanted nothing more than to comfort him, to ease his pain. "Look, Julian, Aiden began, but the door burst open before he could finish. Thomas, Lydia, and Kyle crowded around the bed, forcing Julian to step aside. "Don't freak out. I'm fine," Aiden said quickly. "Thank God." Lydia breathed, relief washing over her. She reached to cradle him gently, while his father, Thomas, wore his usual stern expression. "How are you feeling, sweet boy?" "I'm better. Just overdid it tonight. I'll be fine soon." "Please don't worry," Aiden said, giving his mother a reassuring smile and kissing her hand. "Alcohol poisoning is serious," Thomas said firmly. "You had a seizure. You could have died. We could have lost you tonight. Don't ever downplay that." Aiden met his father's gaze, surprised by the rare show of emotion. Despite their differences, there was unspoken love there. "I'm sorry," Kyle said softly. "This is my fault. I shouldn't have sent you to that event. I should have listened." Aiden raised a hand. "No, Cut. This is on me. Don't blame yourself." He glanced at Julian, who had quietly observed the exchange with a small, approving smile. Aiden was taking responsibility. He wasn't deflecting, and Julian couldn't help but feel proud. "Thanks for handling the press," Aiden said, forcing a small chuckle. "So, I'm allergic to sushi now, huh?" Kyle laughed. "Last-minute thing. I did my best." "Where's the doctor?" Lydia asked Julian. "When can he go home?" "About 24 hours, Julian replied. "He's past the worst, but they need to monitor him and nurse him back to full strength. In the meantime, you can head back to his place and tidy up, especially the bar." "Not happening," Aiden protested weakly. "Settle down," Thomas said firmly. "This is your wake-up call. Time to give up alcohol. For your family, yes, but more importantly, for yourself." "Get out," Aiden muttered, restless. His family left quietly, and Julian was about to follow when Aiden stopped him. "Not you. You stay." Julian smiled faintly, knowing the battle over the liquor wasn't going to be easy. "I'm only doing this for your own good. You'll thank me later." Aiden, mustering what little strength he had, reached up and grabbed Julian by the collar, pulling him close. "I'm sorry it took me so long," he whispered, pressing a tender kiss to Julian's lips. The kiss was electric, intense, right, and completely necessary. Aiden needed to confront his feelings, and this moment was the first step. He finally allowed himself to embrace what he truly felt for Julian. Pulling back slightly, breathless, Aiden murmured, "Thank you for saving me, for being here when I needed someone. I know things are complicated, mostly because of me, but—" "You're welcome," Julian replied, leaning in for a quick, reassuring peck. "You don't need to explain yourself. Rest now. We'll talk later when you're feeling better." Julian headed for the door, winking at Aiden before leaving. Aiden lay back against the pillows, a mixture of relief, satisfaction, and hope washing over him. Maybe, just maybe, he could make this work. Maybe, for the first time, they could have a future together. Chapter 14. Aiden had come frighteningly close to losing his life just 24 hours ago. It was nothing short of a miracle that he was still alive, that his body had held up despite years of reckless drinking. Even his liver, long subjected to his stubborn habits, seemed to be forgiving him, for now. On the ride home with Julian, Aiden still felt the lingering effects of his ordeal. A dull headache, a queasy stomach, and the exhaustion that weighed down every muscle reminded him of just how close he had come to disaster. And yet, despite all of that, he was grateful to be alive, grateful that Julian had been there to see him through the worst of it. He shuddered at the thought of what might have happened if he hadn't pulled through, at the pain his family would have suffered, and at the thought that he might never have told Julian how he truly felt. How much he cared. How deeply he wanted to be with him. Having faced death, Aiden realized he couldn't keep holding himself back. He had to stop being stubborn and finally chase what, or who, he wanted most in life. And right now, that person was Julian McAndrew. You'll have to be patient with me, Aiden admitted quietly, watching Julian navigate the streets. Relationships aren't really my thing, but I know what I feel. I've known it since our first kiss, but I was too scared to admit it even to myself. He glanced at Julian in the driver's seat, admiring the calm focus on his face. Despite listening intently, Julian seemed absorbed in the road ahead. It was late, and both of them were tired, but for Aiden, finally admitting his feelings was one of the hardest things he had ever done. "It's you, Julian," Aiden continued, lowering his gaze to their hands resting together on the armrest. "I want to be with you." When Julian didn't respond immediately, Aiden's anxiety rose. He squeezed Julian's hand lightly. "Hello? Did you hear me?" "I heard every word," Julian replied softly, his eyes never leaving the road. "Just give me a moment. This is a lot for me to process. And with your family staying over tonight, I don't think this is the right moment for a serious conversation. We'll talk when we have more privacy." Aiden pulled his hand back, disbelief written across his face. They liked each other, didn't they? He hadn't imagined the connection. Had he acted too slowly, and now Julian had gotten cold feet? "I don't want to wait," Aiden said firmly as they pulled into his driveway. "Why are you acting indifferent? Have I done something wrong?" "You haven't done anything wrong," Julian said, turning in his seat to meet Aiden's gaze. "I like you, I really do, but we need to be realistic. We're still learning about each other. You just expressed your feelings, and I need time to process them before we jump into anything serious." Aiden frowned. "So, you like me, but you don't want to be with me because you're worried I might change my mind?" Julian shook his head gently. "It's not that simple. I just want us to be sure about this. We need to build something solid, not rush into it." Aiden took a deep breath, his frustration mixing with determination. "Julian, I want you. I've never been more certain about anything in my life. I know what I feel and I know I want this, with you." Julian reached for Aiden's hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "I know and I care about you too. That's why I want us to do this right. Baby steps. We take it slowly. I want to be with you, but we need to make sure it's the right time for both of us." "I'm serious," Aiden said, his voice softening. "More serious than I've ever been about anything." "And that's why I'll wait for you," Julian replied, his green eyes holding Aiden's. "I'll wait while you get comfortable with yourself and what you want. But we both need patience." Aiden nodded, a mixture of relief and hope washing over him. He had finally said the words he had been holding inside. Julian had heard him, and they were on the same path, slowly, carefully, but together. Julian stepped out of the car and walked toward the front door, glancing back at Aiden. "Remember, I'm here for you. We'll figure this out together." Aiden watched him go, a small smile forming on his lips. Maybe, finally, he could stop running from his feelings. Maybe, finally, he could let himself be happy. Chapter 15. Days later. Standing at the entrance to his now empty bar, Aiden felt a mix of emotions, most of them uneasy. On one hand, a weight had been lifted. He was finally rid of the poison that had nearly cost him his life just days ago. On the other hand, he was secretly nervous. His crutch, alcohol, was gone. Any problems that came his way, he would have to face sober without running away. This day had been inevitable. He knew he would eventually have to make this transition. Ready or not, it had arrived. At least, he didn't have to go through it alone. "I'm still debating whether or not I should be angry at you for doing this to me," Aiden muttered when Julian appeared beside him. "It's never looked so empty in here. Feels like something important is missing." Julian chuckled at Aiden's forlorn expression. "Trust me, in a few days you won't even notice. Your body and your liver will thank you for this, though." Aiden smirked, glancing at his shirtless bodyguard. A mischievous thought crossed his mind, but he quickly pushed it aside. "Your body appreciates the sacrifice, huh?" Aiden teased lightly. Julian raised an eyebrow. "You're testing me, Grayson." Aiden grinned. "Maybe I am, but I think you like it." Julian shook his head, trying to hide the small smile tugging at his lips. "One of these days, you'll wear me out with your teasing. But I'll admit, I like it too." The tension between them wasn't sexual, it was electric. The closeness, the playful banter, the shared smiles and glances, it made Aiden feel alive in a way he hadn't felt in years. "I don't do well with challenges," Aiden said softly, leaning in closer. Julian reached out, gently taking Aiden's hand. "Then maybe we should take things slow. I want to be with you, but we both need time to figure this out without rushing." Aiden nodded. "I understand. I'm serious about this, about us. I've never been more serious about anything in my life." Julian smiled, relief and warmth in his eyes. "And that's why I'll wait for you. You don't need to hurry. We'll take this one step at a time." Aiden felt a sense of peace he hadn't known he was missing. Finally, he had admitted his feelings. Finally, Julian had heard him. They were on the same path, slow, steady and real. "Can we just lie down for a bit?" Aiden asked, a playful smile tugging at his lips. Julian chuckled. "Of course, but no mischief, okay?" "Maybe just a little," Aiden replied, smiling as he followed Julian into the room. They settled onto the bed, side by side, their hands brushing occasionally. It was intimate, but safe. Comforting. Honest. Julian let out a small sigh. "You know, I wasn't sure about this at first. About us. But being with you, even like this, makes everything feel right." Aiden squeezed his hand. "It's not a phase. I'm serious about us, Julian. I just need time to get comfortable with myself and with everything around me before the world knows." Julian nodded. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here. We'll figure it out together." Aiden leaned over to give Julian a quick, warm kiss on the cheek, and Julian returned the gesture with a soft smile. For the first time in a long while, Aiden felt free. He wasn't stressed, worried, or afraid. He was just happy, alive. And with Julian by his side, he knew he could face whatever came next, sober, strong, and ready for whatever life had in store. Chapter 16. Aiden hadn't left his house since being discharged from the hospital. Instead, he had been holed up in his mansion, spending nearly every moment with Julian McAndrew, the only person who seemed to truly understand him and all he was going through. The two of them had become almost inseparable. With Julian by his side, Aiden felt lighter, calmer, and more content than he had in years. He couldn't remember the last time he'd felt so at peace with himself. Little did Julian know, he had played a huge role in helping Aiden turn his life around. Being admitted to the hospital for alcohol poisoning had probably been the wake-up call Aiden needed. Life had been knocking at his door for years, trying to get his attention, and now, after nearly losing everything, he finally understood the message. "I don't think your family would like me very much," Aiden said, smiling down at Julian as he rested his head in Aiden's lap. His fingers traced patterns on Julian's face while they lounged on the couch, a movie quietly playing in the background that neither of them was paying attention to. "I know your mother might be cautious with her beliefs, but I think I could win over your sister," Aiden continued. "I don't know about your dad, though. He tends to be skeptical of me, and now that I think about it, maybe your sister too. I don't stand a chance, do I?" Julian yawned, his eyes fluttering closed. "Actually, I think you'd all get along just fine. My dad is open-minded, as is my sister. They'd welcome you if they knew I was serious about you, which I am. And Grayson, you're putting me to sleep with whatever you're doing with my hair." Aiden chuckled softly. "Do you want to call it a night and head to bed?" Julian stretched and rubbed his eyes. "Are we sleeping in your room tonight or mine? Your bed is so much softer." He opened his eyes to see Aiden staring at him with a playful smirk. "What's that look for?" "Nothing, just admiring the view," Aiden replied, scanning Julian with a teasing grin. "You're such a cornball," Julian said, rolling his eyes as they made their way upstairs to Aiden's bedroom. Before entering, Julian paused. "I need to say something, okay? It's been on my mind." "What is it?" Aiden asked. "You haven't left this house since your accident," Julian said gently. "You haven't even stepped outside to, I don't know, smell the flowers. It's been days, Grayson. This isn't healthy. You haven't been to work and you won't take calls. Who's running your company? I've been enjoying our time together, but I feel like you're hiding from yourself, maybe, and it worries me." "From what?" From who? Aiden asked defensively, releasing Julian's hand. I thought we already talked about this. I'm not ready to come out to anyone, and you said you wouldn't push me. You said you'd be patient. Don't you understand where I'm coming from? I'm not talking about coming out, Julian clarified. I'm saying the accident took a lot out of you. That's understandable, but I don't want you to shut down on me. You haven't fully bounced back yet. You're hiding in this house, and it isn't you. Am I making sense? Aiden nodded slowly. Yeah, I guess so. I think we need to get out of this house, get some fresh air, Julian continued, placing a hand on Aiden's shoulder. Also, since we started spending time together, I've noticed some changes. You haven't been the same. You were wild, full of energy, always moving. You were a mess before, but that's part of who you are. I don't want to see that side disappear. Aiden smiled softly, moving closer to Julian. You didn't break me. If anything, you helped me fix myself. And that's me being honest. Julian's heart swelled at the words. I know I tell you I understand what you're going through, but I need you to know this is a lot for me too. I'm not used to getting this close to my employer, and sometimes I worry about crossing boundaries. I want to be honest with you about my feelings. I understand, Aiden replied. I know I might have been clingy at times. I apologize if I've overwhelmed you. I like you a lot, Julian, and I want to be with you. But if you ever need space, just say the word, and I'll back off. Promise me you'll always be honest about your limits. I promise, Julian whispered. And if you want to go out, that's fine too. Kyle can handle the company while I'm away. You shouldn't worry about me, I'm capable, Aiden added, offering a reassuring smile. The two of them stood quietly in the doorway for a moment, just looking at each other, savoring the comfort of mutual understanding. By the way, Aiden said casually, I plan on letting Clayton go. I can see the way you two look at each other, and I don't like it. Julian raised an eyebrow, a playful smirk on his lips. Are you sure you're not being a little rash? We're not officially together. We're just two people enjoying each other's company, right? I'm still letting him go, Aiden said firmly, though a small smile tugged at his lips. Julian laughed softly, wrapping his arms around Aiden's waist. Your jealousy, strangely enough, it's kind of adorable. Usually, that would be a turn-off, but with you, it's charming. Julian shut the bedroom door and spun around, gently holding Aiden in place. I'm not sleepy anymore. Are you? Never was, Aiden replied, leaning forward to offer a soft kiss, only to be interrupted by a knock at the door. Aiden opened it to see Clayton Benton standing there, surprised. Sir, Kyle called about an hour ago, Clayton said, holding out a letter. He's been trying to reach you all day. He wanted me to bring this to you. He also mentioned that Clarissa's house caught fire recently. Aiden glanced at Julian. Looks like playtime is over. We need to call Price, Julian said, slipping past Aiden toward the door. He paused and looked back. Rain check. Yeah, rain check, Aiden replied, feeling a twinge of frustration as he stared at the envelope. Let's deal with this. Chapter 17. Aiden felt sick to his stomach as he reread Clarissa's letter. He stood in the middle of his bedroom for what felt like an eternity, going over the words again and again, trying to understand how someone could be so cruel and manipulative. Anger surged through him, but more than anything, he felt devastated. His mind kept returning to one line in particular, the mention of a baby, one that might have been his. The letter read, Wow, I'm surprised it took you this long to figure out who I am. Now I have to come up with a new plan since I'm the one being hunted. I was enjoying this little game, but thanks to you, I have to rethink everything. By the way, the baby, there was one, but I lost it. Consider yourself lucky. You'll never know what could have been. Right now, I'm only out for your blood because you've caused me so much pain. From the moment we met, things fell apart for me, my heart, my sanity, and even my home. Thanks for breaking my door down, by the way. As if being displaced weren't enough, now I have nowhere to go. But that's beside the point. You took a lot from me, so I plan to take back everything I can from you. I have nothing to lose. Watch your back, Grayson. Those guards outside your house won't stop me. I'm always watching you and that person by your side. Whoever he is, he's on my list too. Don't expect any more letters. This is the last one. The next time you hear from me, it won't be words, it will be actions. Clarissa. Price will be here any minute, Julian said as he entered Aiden's bedroom, his voice anxious but trying to keep steady. Clayton and Joshua are scanning the area outside. Everything's looking clear, but wow. Are you okay? What did the letter say? Aiden sank onto the edge of his bed, dropping the letter to the floor. He stared off into space, his expression distant and haunted. I think she really was pregnant at some point. And there may have been a chance the baby was mine, he whispered, voice full of despair. I could have been a father. You don't know for sure if what she said is true, Julian said gently, kneeling beside him. She's unstable. She wants to get under your skin, to make you doubt yourself. You can't let her. Aiden shook his head, pulling his hands into his lap. I need to be alone right now. Please, shut the door on your way out. Okay, Julian said softly, hiding the ache in his chest. He left the room, hearing the faint sounds of Aiden moving around inside. Julian swallowed the urge to stay, seeing Aiden like this hurt more than he expected. Downstairs, Clayton tried to lighten the mood. Oh, boss man in one of his moods again? This woman really knows how to get under his skin. Clayton, don't, Julian snapped. You have no idea what he's going through. Clayton held up his hands. Relax, just joking. Then focus on your job. Joshua should be outside, Julian said sharply, storming toward the front door. The doorbell rang, and he opened it to find Terrence Price waiting. Please tell me you actually have something useful this time, Julian said. I do, Price replied calmly. I waited until I had something substantial to report before coming here. Julian stepped aside, letting the private investigator in. Price carried a briefcase and opened it on the living room table, revealing notes, letters, and photos. Will Mr. Grayson be joining us? Price asked. Yes, he's on his way. Please, have a seat, Julian said, quickly tidying the mess from earlier. Price began going through his findings. Clarissa is a redhead with blue eyes. This is someone else, a brunette with a pixie cut and brown eyes. She changed her hair and eyes, possibly to hide her identity. Julian's heart sank when Price handed over a document from Northfield's abortion clinic. She visited this clinic about 6 months ago. That's when things started falling apart for her. So, she really was pregnant? Julian asked quietly. Yes, Price confirmed. Whether or not it was Mr. Grayson's, we'll never know. Julian muttered under his breath, this is going to hit him hard. Just then, Aiden appeared around the corner. What's going on here? What is all this, Price? This is everything we have on Clarissa Bollinger, Price said, standing and shaking Aiden's hand. Have a seat. There's a lot to go over. If you can just give me the shortened version, I'd really appreciate it, Aiden replied dryly. My brain feels like it's about to split in two, and all I want is to go to bed. Price nodded. 6 months ago, Clarissa lost her job at Telemart, a call center. She struggled to find work after that, and eventually she was evicted from her home, the same one I understand she recently set fire to. Price handed Aiden the document Julian was still holding. A week before her eviction, she visited this clinic, Price explained. From what I can gather, she couldn't afford to care for a child at that time, so she made a difficult decision. You can see the details on the paper yourself. Aiden's eyes scanned the header and wording. He crumpled the paper and tossed it across the room, frustrated and hurt. The thought that the child might have been his, or someone else's, was infuriating. Worse, the idea that Clarissa could weaponize something so personal just to hurt someone else seemed beyond cruel. She didn't have much money at the time, Price continued. Currently, she has no savings, no home, and is in a very desperate place. Why is she taking it out on me? Aiden asked, restless and troubled. Like I said, she's desperate, Price replied. And based on the mural of you she had on her wall, which Mr. McAndrew mentioned to me, she's mentally unstable. She's lost her career, her child, her home, everything. She has no one to rely on. She's lashing out, and unfortunately, you're her target. But only she can answer that. Julian frowned. Where does this leave us? What do we do next? I've been trying to track her, but she's good at hiding, Price admitted. She's always on the move, rarely staying in one place. I did find that she frequently contacts an ex, Jeremy Pine. They dated briefly before she lost her home and the child. Price pulled out photos of Jeremy and Clarissa arguing outside his home. I've spoken to him, Price continued. He wants nothing to do with her. He thinks she's unstable and she refuses to leave him alone. She seems to be targeting both of you. Catching her at his house may be your best chance. Why haven't you caught her already? Aiden snapped. You have all these pictures. What am I paying you for? Tracking people down is my job, Mr. Grayson, Price said calmly. I do not make arrests. That isn't my role. Unbelievable, Aiden muttered, exasperated. Price opened his suitcase. Here's everything we have on Clarissa Bollinger. You and Mr. McAndrew can decide how to handle it. I've found your suspect. What you do next is up to you. He turned to leave. Aiden jumped up. Wait. Julian held him back gently. Take a breath, he said calmly. You're overwhelmed. Don't tell me I'm going to be okay, Julian. Aiden shouted. I need a drink, but thanks to you, I don't even have a bar. Grayson, please, Julian said, his patience thinning. He wanted to give Aiden space but not enough to let him spiral. I know this is a lot. You have to calm down. Don't tell me what to do. Aiden spun and shoved Julian back. Julian caught himself on the edge of the coffee table, then gently pinned Aiden's hands above his head. Not moving until you calm down, Julian said firmly. I'm only trying to help. You're not helping. Aiden struggled, but Julian's hold was steady. Minutes passed before Aiden finally stopped, exhausted. Only if you are, Aiden said, scowling. Julian rolled his eyes and released him. If you ever put your hands on me like that again, I'll make sure you regret it, he warned. Aiden, however, wasn't done. He caught Julian by surprise, stepping up behind him and placing a gentle, lingering kiss on his lips. I'm still angry, Aiden admitted. Angry at Price, at myself, at everything. But there's something about you that just... He paused, breathing heavily. I need this. I need you. Grayson, Julian whispered, taking Aiden's hands in his own to stop him from acting impulsively. I know you want a distraction, but this isn't it. Why do you keep stopping me? Aiden asked, frowning. There are better ways, Julian said with a small smile. Ways that won't make things worse. Like what? Aiden asked, curious. I'd rather show you than tell you, Julian replied, holding out his hand. Let's go upstairs where it's more private. We can talk, clear our heads, and figure out the rest together. Aiden nodded, heart racing, and the two of them walked upstairs hand in hand toward his bedroom, each step a small reassurance amid the chaos of the night. Julian closed the bedroom door behind Aiden with a soft click. Come in, he said, a teasing smile playing on his lips. Both men were freshly showered, dressed in clean clothes, and still carrying the slight warmth of the water on their skin. Aiden felt his cheeks flush. I think I finally understand the word douche, he admitted nervously, a shy grin forming. Julian's brown eyes softened as he handed Aiden a towel. Here, he said. We'll need these. Aiden blinked at the towels, confused. For? Just in case things get a little messy, Julian replied, smirking. Julian placed the towels neatly on the nightstand and leaned back, his gaze lingering on Aiden. He admired how tall and lean Aiden was, the way his presence seemed to fill the room without him even trying. Come closer, Julian said quietly. I'm glad you're here. Aiden walked toward him slowly, nerves fluttering in his chest. He felt a rush of warmth and excitement just being near Julian. Sitting down beside him on the bed, Aiden felt the tension between them, the unspoken connection that had been building for months, finally surface. What now? Aiden asked, his voice low and hopeful. Julian reached out and took Aiden's hand. Patience, he murmured. I want tonight to be about us, but we'll take it slow. I promise you, it'll be worth it. Aiden nodded, his heart pounding. He leaned in closer, their foreheads almost touching. I'm ready, he whispered. Julian smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Aiden's face. Good. That's all I needed to hear. For the rest of the evening, they sat close together, talking quietly, holding hands, and exchanging soft, lingering glances. Every touch and every smile carried a charge of emotion and longing that words alone couldn't express. They didn't need anything more than the closeness they shared, the warmth of being together, and the quiet joy of finally admitting how much they cared for one another. By the time the night drew to a close, both men were exhausted but happy. Julian pulled Aiden into a gentle hug, resting his chin on the top of Aiden's head. "Good night," he whispered. "Good night," Aiden replied, feeling the calm assurance of being exactly where he belonged. "You look thoroughly pleased," Julian smirked, a playful glint in his eyes. "I am," Aiden replied, smiling back. "I don't know what I'm going to do with you. You have this way about you. It might very well be the death of me." He leaned over Julian, their faces close, and held on to him, a mix of admiration and longing in his gaze. Julian chuckled, brushing a strand of hair from Aiden's face. "I'll take that as a compliment. How do you feel?" "Like I want to do this again and again," Aiden admitted. Carefully, he shifted so that Julian was leaning over him, their proximity sending sparks through both of them. "I've never felt anything like this before. It's incredible." Julian's laugh was soft, almost shy. "What do you want to do now?" "You." Aiden leaned in to kiss Julian again, this time keeping it short and sweet. "Let me return the favor. I want to make you feel as happy as you just made me. Just tell me what you like and I'll try my best." Julian smiled warmly. "Good. Let's take it slow." Later, they stayed close, holding hands and leaning into each other on the bed. Aiden's heartbeat raced as Julian guided him with gentle touches and whispered encouragements. The room was filled with quiet laughter, soft smiles, and the warmth of shared closeness. "You feel amazing," Aiden whispered, brushing his fingers along Julian's arm. "I've never felt this connected to anyone before." Julian's copper-colored eyes softened as he pulled Aiden into a hug. "I trust you," he murmured, "and I feel the same way. Tonight isn't about rushing or doing anything. It's about us, being together and enjoying every moment." Aiden leaned his head against Julian's shoulder, taking a deep breath. "I don't want this night to end." Julian grinned. "Then it won't. We'll just stay like this for a while, okay?" The rest of the evening passed in comfortable closeness. They exchanged soft kisses, whispered secrets, and quiet laughter, exploring the joy of simply being with one another. There was no need for anything more, just the intimacy of trust, warmth, and shared affection. By the time sleep approached, they lay side by side, Julian wrapping an arm around Aiden. "Good night," he whispered. "Good night," Aiden replied, feeling completely content, knowing he was exactly where he belonged. Thanks for listening to today's BL story. If it made your heart skip a beat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only here on BL Stories, where love knows no limits.